Okay, welcome. So, it's been a long time since I posted a video on here. My intent was to actually continue posting videos um, in regards to the subject and what is being done with me and what I go through. However, I guess I just kind of got sidetracked. I finally looked at the last video and the only video that I did on this channel, and I, I, I think I know what was going on. It looks like I was a little bit ragged at the moment. I'm feeling a little bit better today. Probably what was going on there was what what I'll describe as a heavy attack. Before I get into that, though, I do want to share some insight. So, I am a victim of V2K or synthetic telepathy. Um, I'm going to use those terms, the acronym and that phrase, simply because I just lack of a better term. Things like remote neural monitoring. People talk about implants. I'm not into the whole implant thing. I don't really believe that people actually. I'm not saying implants aren't possible, but I don't think there's ways that they could secretly get implants into people without them knowing. And I personally have had no place anywhere in my life where anybody could have implanted an implant within my mind. So, um, just to get that off, yes, no, victim of V2K. Some people go by the term targeted individual. So, um, when I started first researching about what was going on, and this was years after it started happening, I had no knowledge of what V2K was, synthetic telepathy, mind control, remote neural monitoring, all the things like that. I had no clue whatsoever what those were about, or what these meant. I didn't even know it existed. So here I am now today. I'm going to present myself a little bit better. I think it makes more sense to kind of go through more of a testimonial and kind of tell people what's been going on. So let's see. I'm going to go with the fact that, I've been targeted for about 5 years now. We're coming on 5 years. I got a few notes here I'll read just so I can keep where I'm at. So when and where it started and how it started and how it looked. So where it started would have been I was actually in a prison, a correctional facility. I guess it wasn't a prison; it would have been a correctional facility. And this is when I first was contacted within my mind. I wouldn't have known it was in my mind at that time, and I wouldn't have known the entire time that I was actually people in my head. It was in my belief system that actually, like, they had speakers in the walls, and that, like, the correctional facility and the correctional officers were the ones speaking through me through walls. You know, I can say that when you first experience this, then you have no clue what's going on. At least this is from my perspective. So I was in prison for a while. I was only supposed to be there for about 3 months. I got credit for time served at um, a county facility, and then I was moved over there, and I would have only been there for 3 months had it not been for the people who invaded my mind and convinced me of all these different realities. Within the prison system, I was convinced that I was going to be murdered on, multiple occasions. And I thought, that there were gang members after me. The correctional facility was after me. I was convinced that something had happened to my family, and even that my father had been involved in these gangs that were trying to get to him, and he shot one of them. Um, it's really hard. I have a lot of notes. I wrote down a lot of notes when I was in prison about this all, and so I could look over those, and I could one day I'll go to a video regarding that, and get a little deeper into it. So I was in prison, like I said, for only supposed to be there for 3 months, and I think I ended up doing about 7 to 9. I can't exactly remember where it was. So did more. So that was still pretty low amount of time. I was there on a downward departure from a weapons offense, and which resulted in I got a DUI, and so they took away my downward departure. And I'm in Oregon, in case anybody knows, because I know legal things change throughout states. So, not to really get into that too much. Maybe someday I will. So within the prison system, I was actually convinced within that the things were happening. That I was going to be murdered. Um, I was told to do things, tell people things. Um, you know, I was actually under the impression that people actually heard what I was hearing. And so when we get into this, we can get into the fact that, the signs when you start telling people about this, it's going to look um, eerily familiar to like schizophrenia and other mental health issues. I think schizophrenia is the big one. Probably a lot of people are diagnosed with schizophrenia or, auditory visual hallucinations and things and such along those lines. So I did talk to the mental health people there, and told them the voices were in my head. Uh, I was still convinced that people heard them, and I look back and I'm like, man, that was kind of dumb because I don't think I know. Well, now I know, but that people didn't hear it. But the thing with that is, I'm gonna straight up say it was brainwashing. And when somebody doesn't experience, doesn't have the ability to, what's the right word here, review what's going on because they've never experienced before, then it's kind of hard to like know what's going on. Um, so I hear, so when it first started, I didn't hear people 24/7. This started months later, where I wake up, there's people there speaking. They're there when I go to sleep, wake up again, and it's the same thing. So in the beginning, it wasn't exactly like that. Um, I wasn't sure I didn't know that people could read my thoughts. And there's been a lot that I've developed and noticed and discovered while this happens. Um, so, um, yeah, so I didn't really know what was going on. I thought everybody could hear it. And so the big one for me, and I'm going to use these terms and phrases that I came up with myself. And one of the big ones in regards to that is what I would call is mimicry. Um, so the best way that I can only think that this is possible is that there are people around me speaking, and the people running the technology are actually able to record their voice, and of course use um, some sort of program or AI to repeat that voice into somebody's head into different words. So I was convinced that people were actually saying things that they were not. And I was actually convinced that people were hearing things that they did not hear. And this went on for a long time. Like I didn't know that nobody else could hear it. They had convinced me of this new reality. That people could hear it and it was crazy and everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I was convinced that there was a big thing happening in the United States. It's something I've never heard about, V2K, neural monitoring, and synthetic telepathy. So I was completely convinced, brainwashed into believing that other people could hear it. And I could hear other people speaking, but I would notice something, that while they were speaking, I would hear words that weren't actually being spoken out of their mouth. So somebody would speak something and it wasn't matching what I was hearing. And I noticed that every now and then. And it took me a long time to realize that there was just a big elaborate scheme to convince me of this alternate reality. So I want to just say that no, I do not have schizophrenia. I have had, I guess, some mental health things in the past, but I'm going to go with I've gone through bouts of depression and I've had anxiety, and that's about the extent of it. And the depression was a long, long time ago. It was, and the anxiety, it's still there, but it's not really so bad that it really um, deters me away from normal life. Sometimes, it's social anxiety at times. Sometimes I just can't really speak to somebody. But I think that's normal. It's not a big problem. Anyway, let's move forward. Wow, I've already got a lot spoken out. So, started in prison. I was released from prison. Um, and I remember telling my, let me back up just a little bit. So, at the very end there, when I was being released from prison, these people had convinced me in the reality that I was actually working for the Federal Bureau of Investigation and that I was an FBI agent. I know it looks and sounds stupid, but um, there were so many things that they were saying that was going to need to be done. Like, I'm an FBI agent, but I'm not full-fledged FBI agent, and I have to go and do these different things for them before I become an actual, like, full investigative Federal Bureau investigator officer or agent. Um, so when I got out, I was told to even start applying for a position at the FBI. Um, and I started that, and I couldn't really finish the application. I said that I needed to go to the actual FBI field office in Oregon to complete it with another agent. This never happened. I never was able to make it to Portland. Um, so a big thing that they promoted within my mind all the time was they wanted me to go out and have sex with women. Um, I heard this day in, day out. It was always about having sex with women. I was supposed to go there, find a woman, have sex with her, or something like that. And I was an FBI officer working on a special program with them. Yeah. It's a very large story, and it's kind of hard to kind of, condense it, really. Um, I remember meeting with my probation officer and telling them that, yeah, I hear agents, and I can hear them through like the speaker system. He had a speaker playing some music there. And I remember the first time he turned it down, and then the second time when I saw him again, I told him the same thing, and then he wanted to know what they were saying, and I can't remember exactly what I told them. I told him, but that's really not here nor there. So yeah, if I was able to go and have sex with a woman, then I would quote unquote get everything I have ever wanted. So one day, here's some detail. I was using the bathroom, and you know, let me hold off on there for a second. Without explaining how I hear it, it doesn't really seem to make sense. So right now, I hear the voices, and I'm pretty sure, it's penetrating the skull, because I believe that's the whole thing about voice to skull, is they're actually able to put it into your skull to where you hear it, but it's not necessarily from your ears. Um, but so I hear something, and I can hear the voice in it. So let's say the wind is blowing, and that's where I hear them. I call it my the field of auditory perception. So this can go back and forth into different things. I know there's definitely an algorithm, programmed algorithm involved, like movements, and I hear it. So I know that there's, I know it's technology A, and I know B, that there's definitely an algorithm involved, and possibly people. I can't tell you 100%. It seems like it's probably a hybrid version of both. Um, But so when I hear stuff, like so, if I have my TV running, I can hear the voices kind of outside the TV, and that's just kind of the field of perception that I hear. So wind's blowing, I can hear it there, and I've gone out in the middle of the woods, and so there's no technology, no electronics anywhere, and I can hear them still just fine in my head, but also in the wind when it's blowing. I've gone into a cave, and they still were able to get in there. Interesting. I've never actually tried to block them out, like with any way, like going. I've never gone underwater and seen if they actually like, if they can penetrate water with the tech or not. So I'm unknown about that one. Here, give me one moment. I gotta do something. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I know that I can hear them. I guess you would say up here, sort of, kind of. Um, I can hear them. I think the big one is breathing. So sound has a lot to do with it, so far as I know. And I don't have like the technical expertise. I don't have blueprints. I don't have any like official documents, um, patent information regarding how it actually exactly works. But the big one I think is breathing. So when I stop breathing, I don't hear them as much. So it's the sound of breathing that really does make the penetration a little bit, I guess, heavier. Um, one can't just stop breathing. Um, so, so the same thing. So when I was in the prison system, they wanted me to tell people things. They would give me things to tell them, and I would tell them. I'd just go up to people and tell them. I spent a lot of time in a solo confinement in the hole. So most of the stuff I was actually telling to correctional officers. So once I got released, it was the same thing. I was working on a mission. I was supposed to go out there and tell people what was happening. The operators kind of came up with what was happening. The big one of them is CIA agent of Deschutes County is what's happening. They just wanted me to go and tell people just like that and talk to people, I guess. I'm going to try and condense this a little bit more. Maybe someday I can kind of get deeper into exactly what I did. So moving forward a few years, about 2.5 years. Um, there was an incident that happened at a bar. They wanted me to actually go around and like try and grab a female's private top part, and I did not want to just do that. They were getting tired of me because I I I don't have a girlfriend. I didn't have anybody. I never was able to go and have sex with a woman because that's what they wanted. They kept repeating this all the time. That's what they want. And then they finally said that they were fed up with it. And so they actually asked me to go and start grabbing females, groping them, um, in their top parts. So I didn't do that. So still at this point, I thought everybody knew what was going on. Like when I was walking, they followed me. And I thought when I walked in, it was just like, wow, everybody hears it. Everybody knows what's going on. And there's the guy that they're following. He's the CIA officer. He's the guy who's supposed to do this, and he's the guy who's supposed to do that. Anyway, kind of got into a little bit of an altercation sort of thing. So at this point, I had been totally convinced to purchase a badge online that said CIA. I was also convinced to buy a pair of handcuffs. So I was out there walking around with a badge and a pair of handcuffs and kind of got in an altercation where I almost actually put handcuffs on somebody, and I was claiming to be a federal agent. So I left and came back the incident, and then I was approached by local police. I had been in and out of jail with these people for so long. I look back and I'm just like, man, I can't believe I believed all this stuff. Can't believe it. And when somebody says and speaks about these things, and I'm going to call this my testimonial, but when people speak about these kind of things, you're going to see a big red flag that says, well, he's hearing voices, he's schizophrenic, he's mental health, he had a breakdown. And that's the big thing that I've noticed about this, is that people doing this it's actually a really good way to mimic that. they can hide it. I mean, I don't know how many people are going through this, and I don't think everybody that claims to be is. Um, I keep trying to ask people everywhere I go, like, what are you experiencing? Please tell me. And there's just, it's typically no responses. And that could be because of the people in their head and the things they can convince you of. Now I know better. I guess for a little bit of time after I was picked up for impersonating an officer, I was still at that point where I'm repeating things to people for them. And then they sent me to a state hospital. So when I was at the state hospital, there was a point for about 2 months maybe where I didn't hear anybody. I kind of heard them in my head, but I didn't. Um, and then when I was released, bam, right back to it, 24/7. And at this point, I would say it was kind of fun, but I was starting to get. It was starting to finally hit what was actually going on. Um, Now, like I said, they convinced me, that I had to do these things and those things to become, that, and I'd be working with them and all these different things. And I'll get more into that in another video. I mean, I'm already at like over 20 minutes here on this one. So it's a little longer than I was planning. But regardless, these people are just able to convince me of all these lies. And I look back and I'm like, man, I am just so stupid. But it was the use of like I said, what I call mimicry. Me believing people were saying things that they really were not, and me being told in my head that the people that the other people around me were able to hear them as well. And I was like, why couldn't they? I thought it was just like, a speaker system, a hidden speaker system. And that's the way that I kind of describe it. You think of a hidden speaker system within your surroundings, and they're projecting voices into your head, and they can actually put sounds into there, they can project music into there, they can actually put visual imagery into your brain. So like I said, my technical expertise is not 100%. When you look into Richard, let me see, I get some names confused. Richard Alan Miller's synthetic telepathy and the early mind wars. His paper is actually pretty spot on, and someday maybe I'll be able to post. It's very technical, and it would be very hard for somebody to understand unless you have been experiencing this phenomenon. I guarantee it, because I did share it to some people. I've told it to some people, and it's pretty well spot on. And but for somebody who has no idea what he's talking about and experiencing it, then that would really, it's really going to make you be like, I don't understand what this guy is saying and what this means. But I would say his paper is pretty well. And it gets, before I even found that paper, I had started working on a document, and it's about 50, maybe 50 or 60 pages, somewhere around there. And all of it actually aligns with that paperwork. So I found that afterwards, and I was like, wow, okay, I guess everything I wrote down was pretty spot on too. Only his terminology is a lot more extensive and scientific, I would say. I use a very basic writing style. I can use, I like, it's understandable. You just it's just not that high level of scientific expertise that people use. So, yes, so I went to the state hospital, was released. They diagnosed me with schizophrenia, auditory, visual hallucinations, and a myriad of other things, and other psychotic disorder. So the schizophrenia, it typically actually onsets within somebody's 20s and maybe even earlier when they're pretty young. And that's the average time that it actually does onset. So I was in my 30s, and I'm still in my 30s, young 30s. So it's kind of funny how just all of a sudden somebody who has no prior mental history like that, voices and stuff, just all of a sudden I hear voices. Which, it's not and correct that I hear voices. The only problem is these aren't being concocted within my mind. These are actually being projected from other people's minds and their mouth into my brain. And like I said, it probably has um, maybe AI and maybe just or software. It could easily be just voice software, a software program. It doesn't necessarily have to be AI. But if it has like a learning thing and it like um, um, no, even if that, no, chances are it saves everything that you think, say, and speak, everything in your surroundings, everything other people speak. It's more than likely being stored in quite a large, probably a supercomputer. I'm not sure. It could not be a supercomputer, but I don't know how much information that would actually be. But we can fit like in a little thing like this 2 terabytes. It's not like more of information in just a little thing. So I mean, when you get a big, expensive block that can hold a lot of information, it could be small, but I'm guessing maybe a supercomputer. It's got to be pretty advanced technology for it to be able to do this. So in my belief system, it's probably a satellite. I'm not positive about this. I know people have some theories about it, like cell towers and stuff, but it's like I'm not sure about that so much. I guess there could be hidden components that are built into cell towers that do that, but I'm not positive. And excuse me, excuse me, when I get into that, a lot of people are going to go towards targeted justice. And, I have some pretty major reserves regarding targeted justice. I think I think they're a little bit out there on the accusations that they make. I don't think it's actually going to ever go with them and what they're trying to do. I think they're just going about it in the wrong direction. So, me personally, I don't go by a targeted individual, the name TI. I'd rather just go like I'm a mind rape victim. How about that? MRV. TI, I can't like associate with TI. And it's not because I am disagreeing with what's happening. It's because I think that that term is just, people have been using it to apply it to themselves when they might actually be going through mental health issues, schizophrenia, and stuff like that. And it's just underlying issues. I'm not saying that everybody isn't like actually experiencing something, but I don't know. I've listened to the calls of targeted justice, read there. I'm on the newsletter for the email, and it's just like I don't know. Some of it just seems a little bit too far fetched. But I'm not an expert in it. I just think that they're going about it wrong. That's probably why they're not getting anywhere. I think they do have the ability and resources, but because when you look at their page and look at what they promote and what they're saying, it just goes a little bit too far um, off into too much conspiracy. Too much conspiracy. There's a such thing as too much conspiracy. So, regardless of that, um, I pray that people who are experiencing it and going through this um, come forward and start sharing their stories. I think people need to share what's going on, what these people are saying, and be more open about it. In my last video, I was very open about the things they said, and I will be open about it. I have no reason not to be. If people want to say that that's just all me and it's just all in my head, then it's like, okay, well, you can either blame that and diagnosis of schizophrenia, or you can just believe the fact that there are actual people there. So this is definitely demonic. I am a Christian, just to let you know, a believer of Jesus Christ. I believe that he went upon the cross and died upon that cross, and I believe that he is the way, the truth, and the life. So, um, state hospital, even after I had no idea about V2K and synthetic telepathy until after the state hospital, and this was 3 years ago. So, about 3 years ago is when I learned. 2.5, 3, almost 3. I get confused. Yeah, we're getting close to 5 years on that, so it's been almost 3 years. September will be 3 years since I was released from the state hospital, and I'm doing fine now. Um, I don't do what they want anymore. I don't go around and tell people things anymore. Um, yeah, I don't listen to them anymore. I send messages to the government officials, mostly the president, the vice president, and I let them know what's going on. And I have a few scriptures I'll share in regards to that about exposing the wicked deeds of evil. Um, so I would say at one point it was actually fun to go through this, and there was I recall the people that were in my head actually kind of my friends. So that eventually turned into something much different and more nefarious and malevolent in nature. They really turned a complete 360, 180. I mean, 180 around and just started doing the weirdest things. Um, they say the most bizarre things and the most bizarre things in my brain now, and it's filthy. It's absolutely filthy. It's disgusting. You know, I don't know. To be a person like that, I can't even think about it. And it's like a serial rapist, serial killer spirit within them. People talk about demonic possession, and they're definitely on the demonic side. They are not coming from God, and there is nothing godly about them or what they do or what they promote or what they say. God is far over here, and they're about as far away as you can get from him. God as far away as you can get from him. Um, so, so Ephesians 5:11 through 12. I'm going to get into some scripture here, and then I'll move on to my story. About 30 minutes in, so if you stuck around, thank you. It's good. If you haven't, that's okay. I guess you don't know if you haven't. Okay, so Ephesians 5:11 through 12 says, "And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret." So it is very shameful, and it is really tough to actually verbalize what these people say and do. Like I said, it's really a serial rapist and serial killer spirit driving these people. Now, on that note, I am a firm believer that a majority of this could be possibly AI or a software program. The generic repeated words and phrases that cycle through constantly. It's the same thing over and over and over. That's just forcefully rammed into my brain to the point where I don't even think anymore, really. I don't even think in my own voice anymore. Um, just imagine people actually saying these things. I'm going to share a few things, and like I said, it's shameful to even speak them. But I am here called to expose them as well, and they do this all secretive, hiddenly, making sure that nobody finds or figures them out, because that is the key there. Once everybody finds out, wow, that pride they hold, the coward in them is really going to be freaking out. So remember that these people are operating in the darkness. And John 3:20 says this, "For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed." So they don't want to come to the light. They want to stick where they're at. Like I said, um, there's God, here's them, and they're about as far away. There's the light, and they're as far away from the light as one could even imagine. They are so far gone into that darkness that it's a shame. It's too bad. I really think this technology could probably be used for other purposes than just torturing somebody's mind. And I'm personally going to tell you that these people really they sexually assault me. They force sexual things in my brain all the time. Like, I mean, that's their big thing. is to shove sexual things of anybody, everybody. It can be anybody. Gosh, I can see a photo of somebody and they'll just shove it right in there, say a bunch of gross things, and it's just like, wow. I try to block them out, which you can do, but it's kind of hard to do that. So the thing about, oh yeah, I was thinking about something when I was speaking. Like I don't even speak in my own voice or hear my own voice in my head anymore. I don't think in my own voice in my head anymore. So one of these days I'll get more into like my technical jargon regarding this. So I've noticed that they're able to read your mind when you think. Your larynx and what's going on here actually must produce a very mute um, sound. Um, so when you're just thinking, they can hear it, which is kind of hard to explain. I'll get deeper into that. And that's why, it's called mind control and mind. They can read your mind. But the more they did this, the more I realized that whenever I think, I can actually feel my voice box and my larynx actually, I guess, vibrating and moving. So um, this technology is definitely like, very pinpoint right on. And it would be amazing if they just didn't use it for these stupid purposes. I mean, they could, according to them, I guess there is nothing better that they could be doing with this technology since they're here doing this. There's really nothing better than to just go and, they're above the law. They believe that. They've told me, all these things. They're obviously not for democracy or constitution. Um, but this is how they're able to actually hear it. And if you're experiencing it and you haven't noticed it yet, and you start thinking, you might start noticing it then. Okay, so moving forward here, a little bit longer video than I was planning now. So I'm gonna just read something that they were shoving in my brain earlier today, and there's a little bit of a warning. It is graphic and has profanity, and I hate profanity. And this is just disgusting. You cum splatter. Fuck you, God Almighty. Oh, okay, come fuck you, Mother Moo. My mother. No. Come in your mother, motherfucker. No, Connolly. Fuck you, comer of women. Motherfucker. They hate you. No way in hell I come in my mother. So that's not really how they sound. That's how I was reading it, just to kind of be able to enunciate it. So they do seem like it seems like a very personalized voice. Most of the time it's a male voice, sometimes it's female. So they repeatedly shove that in my brain. Shove it, over and over and over and over again. And they're actually able to, while they're doing that, in that field of auditory perception, you hear one thing, and then in the back of their head, they're voicing another thing into your brain. And so when they say all these things, they're actually trying to attempt to force me to get an erection. So this is where that sexual assault comes into play, and this is just taking away bodily autonomy. They're just like trying to take away your autonomy. And they'll just throw the most disgusting things in your brain and actually try and force an erection. I can kind of block it out. Without experiencing, it's hard to tell you what blocking it out means, but I can kind of block it out so, it doesn't happen. But this is just wrong. It's just wrong. I mean, they're sex offenders. I don't know what to tell them. One day, I think that they're going to fall. I think we're all going to get justice from them, and they'll go to that prison system. And I pray that they're there for a long time. I'll forgive them. Oh, I'll forgive them. That's what I'm called to do. I'm even called to love them. Love your enemies, Jesus said. And pray for them. It is spitefully you. So, I guess this was just to get a little bit of my testimonial out of the way. I do plan on sharing more and more videos onto this page. If it doesn't seem like I get any views, then I think after I get about 5 videos, I might restart the channel. Since, the algorithm probably doesn't enjoy the fact that I didn't keep posting videos. And the first video was 7 months ago. And I'm sorry if you saw that. I watched it. I was like, wow, I looked pretty ragged and sounded pretty strange. I was letting them speak. They do have this ability. If I just kind of like relax myself, they can just kind of like actually speak through my speak through me. Like I said, it's taking away bodily autonomy. It'd be close to demon possession, in my opinion. I think that's what they're trying to actually mirror a lot is demon possession because we know where they're from. So, in my opinion, because of what they do, I do believe that at this point they should have at least 1,092 counts of sexual assault, give or take, against, they should be charged with that, plus a lot of other things, attempted murder, conspiracy. I'd have to look at my list of everything that I've come up with. Possible theft. It's just going to be a different way to navigate the legal system when it comes to this kind of case. And the problem is that we need that evidence before we can even really proceed. So I say we pray for evidence to be presented and people to come forward. I think if we start voicing the truth and telling people everything, they're going to start noticing possible similarities. They're going to notice people are just like they're sharing their experience, and I think that's what people need to do. That's why I'm sharing graphic experience of it all. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for sticking around. I hope if you want, you can comment, share a video, do speak to me. Maybe I'll share some information and people can get a hold of me or something. Because I love to hear your story. So, thank you so much and have a good one. And if you're going through what I'm going through, trust me, I'm right there. But know that Jesus is right there too. Everything they do unto us, it's like doing it unto Him. So I love you all, and I'm sorry for the graphic parts of this. I'm just here speaking the truth, and you can believe it or not. I'm not here to tell you to believe it or not, but it's the truth for me. And there's people using this technology against me. So thank you so much for doing it. Have a good one.